This is Wrestling Voice Radio with your host Dwayne Doogan and Luke Barry. Have your wrestling voice heard.
Seen it? Yeah. The one where Edge is putting me through the table that's on fire?
Yeah. Not in the UK.
It's not in the UK? What, they put another picture up there? What is more OMG than that moment?
Cena.
What?
Cena, apparently.
Cena is on the cover of the OMG? Anyway, that's actually not the number one OMG moment, though, on the DVD. The number one OMG moment belongs to Duane. Something called Hell in a Cell. I'm going to do something. Nobody ever does this. Nobody ever does this because you're taking your career into your hands. If you badmouth The Undertaker, you better turn off those videos. What happens in Cork stays in Cork.
Hi Mick, thanks for joining us here on this very special edition of Wrestling Voice. Our first video interview, you could say you broke our video virginity.
Rather you rephrase that. Important thing, have I beaten Chris Jericho at something?
We were going to bring this up. You're both tying at the moment as the most frequent guest.
But he's never done the video version.
No, he's never done the video.
Okay, alright, I got it.
He said last time that if you equal it, because you were equal last time with 2.
Okay.
This is your third, and he's been on 3 times. He said he'd have to come back and do something special, but I said to you with a video interview.
Yeah, I may have to do a run-in on one of his Fozzy shows. Try to reinstate the 24/7 rule for some type of imaginary title and take him down during an encore or something.
So we put in the same. But we're going to start off with your comedy. How's the feel now your tour has begun and you're officially a stand-up comedian now that you have your own tour? How's it going so far?
I still don't. I consider myself I'm someone who does stand-up comedy. I still don't consider myself a comedian. That's for other people to say. I still think I'm more of a storyteller. But you're asking me before I've actually done the tour. So you should maybe ask me that same question after this first show. I've got 2 shows tonight. Yeah. And after the first show, I should have a sense of whether this is going to be a great experience or whether I've made a really big mistake.
Are you looking positively at it, coming up to it?
I think it's going to be good. I mean, I go up there and I learn something every night. I don't go up with an exact set. I mean, I'll be honest. That's my set tonight. I've got like 7 words there. But sometimes, like in wrestling, you can prepare some things, but it's those moments that transpire between the planned events that make the difference between a good show and a really good show, or in my case, between a bad show and a decent show. So I'm looking for decent tonight. Yeah.
So it's the first night of your tour. You've got a series of dates in Ireland now, and then in England. How does this differ, from setting out on, say, a tour or a week on the road in wrestling?
Well, it's a lot different in the sense that it's just me. People's time and whether or not it is a good investment in time depends entirely on what I do up there, and not just up there, but how I treat people afterwards. This is pretty. This tour is pretty heavy on the meet and greets. So. Especially on a night when I'm a little off, I'll make sure that I'm extra nice to meet him. So he's a good guy, he's a good guy. But I look at comedy as if it has so many parallels with wrestling, in that it's not necessarily the oohs and ahs and pops you get in a wrestling show. It's how people feel when they leave that show. I mean, I've been on some good independents where guys are doing crazy things, life-threatening moves, and they're getting those oohs and ahs at the end of the night. The feeling among the fans is, geez, I could go a couple of years without seeing that stuff again. But sometimes a show that might not be quite as spectacular leaves people with a better feeling, and they're happier that they came, if that makes any sense. So I'm excusing myself for not making people laugh out loud all the time. But it is really more important that they leave with a smile on their face and want to come back again.
It's a good message.
Yeah.
And what kind of made you decide to start in comedy? Was it kind of the writing in your book and people telling you it was humorous, or was it kind of your promos kind of bleeding over into being funny?
Yeah. I wish I had my program with me. The program's probably going to make it till about November 9th. Yeah. So it's pretty good. It's a nice keepsake. But I actually point out that one of the pivotal moments for me, as far as being involved in comedy, was actually the Hell in a Cell match. Because it was after that match that I realized I can't do this much longer. You know, I've got to shift gears and make people care about me in a way that doesn't involve, you know, getting a tooth lodged in my nose or landing on thumbtacks. And that's where, if you go back to 1998, that's where the humor really started to kick in with the Mankind character. And then the books and the reaction I would get from guys when I read them parts of the book made me realize it was a lot like being in the ring without getting hurt. You know?
Yeah, we were talking about the books actually when we were on the way over here. And I was saying about how kind of makes me sound a bit American, I don't know, thing, but I read the book first when I was about 12.
Yeah.
When I was very young, and I kind of didn't get it really. Then I was 15 and I was in hospital.
Yeah.
And I asked my mother to bring me just some books from my house, and she brought me Have a Nice Day. And I read it, and I was in hospital with a series of injuries because I fell. And the book was just absolutely the most helpful thing I've ever had. It was just so entertaining.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And there were all these stories about guys like, you know, sitting in first class in an airplane, and they'd have a briefcase, and they would take out the Have a Nice Day book, and they'd be, you know, holding their stomach laughing. So the only thing that scared me about taking this venture was that people would be like, you're doing comedy? Like, really? Like, and I thought I'd been fairly humorous, you know, on the wrestling show for years. I am finding there's a difference between telling humorous stories and stories that really make people laugh out loud. And again, I'm not looking to make everyone laugh, you know, X number of seconds, but I'm trying to weave in the humorous stuff with the really funny stuff, and then every once in a while, probably shouldn't say this to you guys, but I try to slide in a little message without people realizing it. Yeah.
After I've been thrown off the side of that cell structure, found the intestinal fortitude to climb back up on top of the cell, where I was promptly chokeslammed through the cell. At which point a chair that was up there, those 16 feet in the air, was following me down every inch, smashed me in the face, knocking out 2 of my teeth, one of which ended up in my nose. Only time in my entire career I'd ever been legitimately knocked out. So I'm not talking about one of those Earl Hebner knockouts either. Talking about real, legitimate, where the fuck did the time go? Unconscious moments. And although I'm not supposed to talk this inside lingo, you know, I managed to struggle to my feet, and I was on Queer Street, not literally. Al Snow has apparently spent a lot of time.
One of the things that you work with a lot, other than your comedy, is charity work, specifically for RAIN.
Yeah.
And you did a series of auctions lately. How did they end up in the end?
Man, I was a little, you know, you should never tweet when you're down or angry. You know, there was that classic tweet where I compared my empty arena match with The Rock to a TNA house show. It may have been the most expensive wrestling tweet in history. But also I tweeted when I was a little down when that Rain fundraiser started, and people really weren't kicking in money like I'd hoped. But once they saw that it was really important to me, and a friend of mine told me that, said, give it time. You know, once they see this important to you, people are going to start getting involved. So we had a goal of 10,000, and we eclipsed that. And then there were a couple of major donations. I had to make an unfortunate text to Dixie Carter where I said, Dixie, I got some good news, some bad news. She said, okay, what is it? I said, good news is I just got a $10,000 donation to RAIN. She wrote, and the bad? I said, it was from Vince McMahon. So TNA had already planned on making a donation. And so within a day, I mean, we went from like $20,000 to $40,000. And it kept rolling. We had a couple of major donations, and then I kicked in some money. some matching funds to start with. A couple people paid big money to have me show up and mow their lawn. And then we just hit 100,000, and then I did the auction, where I was really putting my best stuff out there. So for anyone who wants me to make a return to the ring, the only problem is like I don't actually have anything to wear anymore. Cactus Jack boots are gone. They still had all the thumbtacks from the match with Ric Flair. So I felt like people knew that I was dealing with my best stuff, and they paid. I mean, they paid big money. The auction raised $20,000. So we not only raised $120,000, but we also raised awareness. You can't really put a price tag on that.
And I remember you saying that it was kind of I'll come mow your lawn. Was the $5,000 donation or just hang out with you in brackets?
Yeah.
Did you actually mow people's lawns?
I did. You know what? I mowed 2 lawns. Fortunately, it was a small lawn, and then a couple of other people just had me hang out. But what that ridiculous idea did accomplish was it allowed like the media, especially in the States, to look at a subject that was so sobering, like sexual violence, and it just gave it a soft enough edge to where they could now report on it, and that helped immeasurably. So I was able to do some mainstream media and bring that to it's a long, difficult generational process trying to change the way people think about a certain subject, but I felt like for that couple months I was really doing my part.
Another kind of thing that deals with your charity was you were recently involved in the Shane Helms benefit night.
Yeah.
How was that to be a part of? There was a lot of media coverage about that, especially stuff that Ric Flair said about TNA and things like that.
Oh God, I know. As they were saying those things, I'm like, guys, you still work there. Yeah. You know what? It was a great event. There were a few people who were like angry, like how could you support somebody who had possibly been drinking and driving. And like Shane said, the best lessons learned are the ones that come with a price tag. Here's a guy, he almost lost his life.
Big price tag.
Almost lost his foot. Lost his career for at least a year, probably 2, maybe forever. Fortunately, nobody else was hurt, and he wanted to spend the money not on his own bills, which he could have used, but on creating a public service announcement that might help other people. Something like showing some action footage and saying, hey, you can be on top of the world. Here's Shane with a high-flying move, and then fighting for your life. The next step. So I was really proud of the fact that with like 0 advertising dollars, just Twitter and then the internet got on board, and I sent out the text to Rick, inviting him there, and then once he got involved, and then once Edge got involved, it became more than a show. It kind of became an event, and based on the number of people there and the number of dollars we raised, it was like almost every single person opted for the VIP. Ticket where they got the autographs. So it was a really a good show, except for the fact that I didn't pull my shirt out. My pants were like up to here, and if you see me slimming down in the coming weeks, you'll know that's because I saw a video of that and I was not pleased with my waistline.
There's 2 things you mentioned there that I think were kind of interesting. One is your relationship with Ric Flair.
Yeah.
And the other one is using Twitter. When it was true that you wrote your original books, you actually handled them.
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah. The only reason I got involved with Twitter was because I did have this the book out last year, Countdown to Lockdown, and it's you're no longer in a position. I'm no longer in a position where I can just walk out on the air holding it and let people flock to it. I mean, first of all, there's been so many wrestling books out there, and also WWE, for example, has so many products that they can't just and this wasn't their book, even though for the record they promoted that book more strongly than the company I worked for did. But I wrote the last 3 chapters of that book with a keyboard once I realized that no matter how slow I typed, I could type faster than I wrote. But I got involved with Twitter just as a way to get the word out there. I mean, probably a year too late, because by the time the book got out, I had like 6,000 or 7,000 followers, and now it's really picking up steam. But it is a valuable tool. I couldn't do these comedy dates without it. I mean, this is essentially the Twitter tour. We were sending out tweets, and fortunately, some of the UK shows sold out in a day.
Just based on tweets alone.
Yeah, I think so.
That's the first thing we heard.
Yeah. Send a tweet, and unfortunately, some people could argue as to whether I'm still relevant, but enough people feel like I am that they then pass the word on. And when I was sitting there actually looking at the seating chart at the Leicester Square Theater, and I was watching those tickets disappear, I was like, we might sell this place out in one day. So, and we did.
But is that even somewhere like Cork, where wrestling, you don't really hear many people talk about it anymore, as you did back in maybe the Attitude Era or something, for you to be able to sell out. Like Cyprus has had some big stars in and out of it and stuff like that, and to sell it out in a comedy gig for a wrestler, it's interesting.
It's tough. I was talking about it with tonight's promoter. He said, they've had some big stars come back for wrestling tours, and drawing in the hundreds. And I was like, and the benefit of this is just one guy with a microphone. There's not 30 guys in hotel rooms and flights and all that. So even if it dies, it's there's not much loss of revenue. So people can take a risk. I try to put a price out there that's affordable. I don't want to be the guy who loses money for the clubs. I want people to leave happy, and as long as I can shamelessly plug my merchandise, this is the best comedy tour shirt of all time. There it is.
It's quite good.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I don't brag about much, but look, it's got all the dates on it. The Knights in Red flannel tour. It's
and how much is it?
Well, it's 20 pounds, and it's only that expensive because it costs a lot to make, and then to ship. It was like, man, hundreds and hundreds of dollars to ship and pay the duty on it. So we got to charge a pretty decent price.
Imagine it'll pay off, though.
I hope so. I stopped lugging shirts around like 6 years ago because they were a hassle. But I was loaded to the gills with shirts when I came over here. So I hope to leave without any of them.
But you don't have to worry about sellers. When we walk in just outside, there's already a massive queue.
Good.
An hour before doors.
Willing to part with their money.
Last night we were both in Dublin at the WWE show where you made your return after 3 years.
Yeah.
Surprise return.
Surprise return. It was something we weren't expecting, and everybody there seemed to get such an excitement just over seeing you again. So you wondered about being relevant. So you certainly seemed relevant to the people there.
Yeah, that was really. I'll remember that night, forever. A couple, I got literally like a couple thousand tweets off of that, and all but one were encouraging. Even the one that was bad was like, WWE's better without you. Okay, that's not so bad. But a couple asked why I would do it at a house show. And the basic answer is because I just happened to be flying into Dublin on the day they were there. My hotel was literally across the street, and even a month ago when it was pretty obvious that I was back in the good graces of Mr. McMahon, I called up, asked if I could come hang out, So it worked out good. It was a lot of fun.
And I think I don't know if it's a secret or not. You booked for a few more of the UK tours.
I only mentioned it because I saw that somebody had released that I was going to be on another show or two. So I didn't give a definitive answer, but I said, hey, I might be stopping by. I've got a couple of days off. People are wondering why I had the Monday and Tuesday off. The honest truth is that ever since my no-compete expired, I've made sure every Monday and Tuesday was free,
just in case.
Just in case, yeah.
And in the last interview you did with Wrestling Voice Radio, you said that you think you had a few good matches left in you. Going back to WWE now, who would you like to wrestle?
I don't know if I have a few good ones. I have probably one decent one and a couple of mediocre ones and a really bad one left. So, or, you know what? There are we may have even talked about this. I think the last time I talked, I was on a cell phone in the one part of my building where I can get a signal. And I said there are, of course, the ready-made dream matches against former opponents. But I got to tell you, The Miz is a guy who gets good heat. Last night, even the stuff we did at the house show showed me that that's kind of a natural matchup. The young, brash, superstar, looking down on the older guy trying to relive his glory days. I think that would be a pretty easy thing.
It was very good. You went full-on Foley pop mode as well.
And I hadn't planned on it. I planned on just doing the one, but we got 6 out of it,
So I made a phone call and said, hey, no better place for me to play for the first time in over 3 years than right here in Dublin, Ireland. Right here in Dublin, Ireland. I came out here to have some fun in Dublin, Ireland. Right here in Dublin, Ireland. And it's your big head right here in Dublin, Ireland. Right here in Dublin, Ireland.
You and the Miz did seem to click straight away.
Yeah.
And that obviously wasn't given time to plan much for that, obviously. So it was just clearly
Yeah, it was really good chemistry. I look at a lot of the other younger wrestlers and say, geez, these are great. But for me, as an older guy, I mean, the Miz would have a field day picking me apart verbally.
Yeah.
And I believe I'd have a pretty easy time doing the same thing to him. That's what makes for a good, interesting rivalry.
Definitely. I just thought getting fitting in a Neil Diamond song in your promo. So you were advertised by the WWE for the week after next here in Boston. You've been removed from that now. Is that?
You know, I don't know what the deal is. I mean, you know, I was asked if I was available. I might be saying too much, but I never knew that it was a definite, and so I never knew that I was on it, and so I wasn't too worried when I was told I was off it. Just found out, you know, through Twitter and that I was off it, and I wouldn't be surprised if I'm back on it. But my honest feeling is that, geez, you know, having The Rock return is probably enough of a surprise. You know, like that's a big enough deal.
Yeah,
you know,
your Rock and Sock connection.
See, that's written already. Then to have you come back as well.
I don't know.
Nothing else really to say to you, Mick. You're an excellent guest.
All right, thank you.
We're happy you could be our first video interview.
Appreciate it. If you notice, I'm keeping the charisma really low so I can just go out there and just explode on stage.
Excellent. And we'll let Chris Jericho know about your training as well if we interview him next.
He's, you know, I connected with Chris and I asked him where he was going, and I'm like one day off on a couple of these. It's funny because the days that I've got the WWE days where I'm going to be in Manchester. Just on the 5th. I'll be in Manchester on the 9th doing the comedy thing. It's me, Jericho, WWE, and Tori Amos. Because she's in Manchester on the 4th. I'm in Glasgow the exact same night that she's in Glasgow. I MapQuested it. We're 22 seconds apart. So Glasgow is going to get like the fast show. You know, I'm going to ask people, look, assuming there isn't any laughter, just hold it to the end. Give me one big laugh. I'm telling these stories quick. I'm out of here. So. Yeah, it's going to. I think it's going to be a great time. I really do.
Yeah. We wish you all the best of luck on your comedy tour upcoming, and I'm sure our listeners, our watchers, and the viewers on this one do. And we hope you sell all your t-shirts. Is there anything you want to plug there coming up?
No, I just want to say it's great to be right here, Cork, Ireland, County Cork. Thanks, guys.
Thanks very much.
Okay, you got it.
Thanks so much.
I appreciate it.
But the Undertaker took a look at the shape I was in, and he leaned down and he said the following words. He said, "Go home." Which means this match is over and needs to end. And I remember getting pissed. I remember thinking to myself, listen, you big son of a bitch. I don't care who you are or what you've done. Nobody tells me when to go home. If anything, I'll tell you. Yeah. That's what I was thinking. What I actually said, if you read my lips, was